Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to the session. And before we get started, I would like to ask a question, even though I can't see you very well. But please raise your hands if you have ever interacted with more than one blockchain. Oh, wow. There's a lot of them, a lot of you guys. And we hear you. We also see multi-chain as a major trend in the blockchain industry. This is why we built USDC that embraces multi-chain as a critical strategy. As a leading digital currency, it's essential to distribute USDC beyond Ethereum to major blockchains. In the past 2 years, we quickly expanded from Ethereum to many other blockchains. And as you heard yesterday, there's more to be anticipated. Launching USDC natively across blockchains enables us to meet developers and users wherever they need it with the highest availability and deepest liquidity. Time and time again, partners ask us about the mysteries of USDC. Today, that's why we want to share with you the inside outs of architecture of USDC and the application on different blockchains. Spoiler, this might be one of the more technical talks you will hear today, but that's the spirit. We know that coming to Converge, you already know what USDC is doing. We want to share more about how USDC works under the hood. My name is Boyan Lin, and I'm on the stablecoin infrastructure team at Circle. I live in the Peninsula Bay, and my hobbies are biking and golfing. Stablecoin infrastructure team is in charge of USDC on multi-chains. So I'll then pass to Oscar to share with you the inside outs of USDC architecture.
Hey, everyone. As Boyan said, I'm Oscar. I'm also on the stablecoin infrastructure team. I'm an engineer. I'm originally from Vancouver, BC, now living in Seattle, Washington. In my spare time, I dabble in snowboarding and also play some basketball. But that is not what I'm here to do today. Today, I'll be talking about the inside and outs of USDC architecture. So USDC is a stablecoin, but what are the specifications? Can't anybody just create a token and call it USDC? What are the requirements for a trusted stablecoin? Before we begin, I want to begin by highlighting a few things about USDC. Not all stablecoins are created equal. At Circle, we value trust, security, and scalability. By being a digital dollar fully backed by US dollars, we maintain the public's trust in that whenever you come to us for one USDC, we will always have $1 US for you. We also stress transparency as a vector to hold ourselves to a high bar. In order to maintain this, we must have some strict requirements for USDC. But why bother? First, trust. We believe we can't build trust without a trusted product and specification. Second, visibility and scalability. For long-term products, a high bar must be met at the beginning, not just something that's given second thought as you go along. This translates to 6 specific requirements that Circle must follow for USDC on any blockchain. First, block listing. If required to do so, we need to be able to prevent certain bad actors from sending and receiving USDC. Next, spending on behalf of. To provide flexibility, we should be able to delegate some responsibilities on who can spend. For example, a company allowing an employee of $500 approval to spend for business purposes, kind of like a virtual card. Then, configuring minters. We should program the ability to allow multiple entities to issue USDC. Sometimes entities other than Circle should do this. Multi-signature transactions. Transactions shouldn't be limited to a single approving entity. To prevent malicious actors for sensitive transactions, we should at least allow K of N signatures. And lastly, or penultimately, we need to allow cold storage. Sometimes transactions shouldn't always be instantaneous. If you want to send your employees a salary based in USDC, you could theoretically create this transaction ahead of time and have it set to broadcast next month. Now, lastly, for flexibility, we need to support pausability and upgradability. We need to support the ability to pause all action on the contract when situations arise. We also need to be able to maintain the smart contract and introduce optimizations or features when needed, like an upgrade. But now we only have the smart contract. how do we use this USDC? What happens when you transfer USDC from your Circle account? As part of our goals to be transparent, we want to give you all some insight as to how USDC works behind the scenes here at Circle. To bridge you all to Dev Day, which we encourage you all to go to tomorrow, I will be getting a bit technical. So for those that are non-technical, this may be a lot, but I will use an analogy of a flight taking off from SFO to LAX. For those that are technical, I might gloss over some details. I'm sorry. With that being said, let's trace through an example from pressing transfer on your Circle account to when an address receives this USDC. By now, you all may know that we are a Web3 company. This means that there is some interaction with the blockchain when you use our apps. So here's what our internal flow looks like when working with USDC. The Circle account backend fires off a request to send some USDC. You can think of this as a request to book a flight. This request is created and will be picked up downstream and tracked until completion. Here, going from left to right, in general, involves HTTP requests, and from right to left involves message queues.
Yep.
The request we created will now go to a transaction handler. It is also responsible for handling requests from our other products. You can think of the transaction handler as the airport. It is responsible for handling the booked flights and scheduling them. The transaction handler then packages the original information of who sent it to where, for what amount, and other information, and saves it to its database. It then passes this information to something called a router to begin working with blockchain-specific logic. The router is then equivalent to an air traffic controller. It is a specific dispatcher that will only be working with one thing, aircraft. At Circle, this is analogous to the router only working with the blockchain requests. But the air traffic controller doesn't work with specific aircraft. We need to forward this request to a department that is responsible for the type of aircraft that is taking off. To work with a variety of aircraft or blockchains here at Circle, we created microservices that we call crypto clients. These crypto clients take care of the requests from the router and complete them. The crypto clients in this case would be like the aircraft's specific departments. Like aircraft, each blockchain has different requirements and different use cases. Passenger planes usually take off in the main terminals. Helicopters use the helipad, and if you have one, private jets might need an entirely different terminal. So here, we are scheduling a passenger plane for takeoff. This would mean we want the passenger plane specific department to handle this request. Going back to our Circle account example, we are sending USDC on Ethereum. This would mean we would want the Ethereum specific crypto client or ETH client to handle this request. So analogously, the client takes this request and calls out to the node and the blockchain. The plane moves to runway 10L and takes off. The plane flies for about an hour and 20 minutes and lands in LA. Translating that into blockchain speak, the transfer function on our USDC contract is called, the transaction is submitted, picked up in a block, and executed. And finally, the funds are received in the wallet in much less than an hour and 20 minutes. There's a lot more infrastructure that goes on, such as notifying the upstream services that the funds have landed. But this is a simple flow of what it looks like behind the scenes of a USDC transfer here at Circle. So now that we know both the USDC smart contract requirements and what the internal architecture looks like here at Circle, here's what we need to do to tie it all together and launch USDC on a new chain. The first step is due diligence. The Circle team looks for new opportunities for USDC. We study to determine which chain, the release date, bridged versus native asset issuance, and the priority date. The product team also is engaged in the engineering feasibility, checking out the developer ecosystem, and whether or not it will work well with our systems. They also look for any blockers, such as whether or not the blockchain SDK needs improvement, whether or not we need to work on other endpoints, etc. Then we start the project planning phase. This leads us to development. The engineering team and engineering leads start architecting the crypto client. We attempt to answer a massive list of questions, such as, how does this crypto client fit into Circle's architecture? How do we talk to this new blockchain? Do the SDKs work well for us? Sometimes we may even need to do smart contract development or research into how the asset should be deployed on the network. Once that is answered, we still need to know how the represented USDC will adhere to the 6 specific requirements. To be extra careful, we need to rigorously test and make sure that any edge cases are addressed. We also engage with third parties to audit our smart contracts. With 50 billion USDC floating around, we can't afford to overlook minor details. To be extra careful and make sure everything's good, once we wrap that all up, we prepare some materials and we are good to release. And with that, I will hand it off back to Boyan to talk about unique use cases of USDC.
That's awesome, Oscar. Thanks for sharing with us about the fun technical stuff of USDC that we got to deal with every day. Not all stablecoins are created equal. As you can see, we laser focused on the security and scalability of USDC to make it the most trusted stablecoin on the planet. Now that with a trusted stablecoin infrastructure, let's take a look at the application of USDC on different blockchains. Back in early 2021, we partnered with Stellar team to launch USDC on Stellar, and there were some interesting challenges we overcame during this journey, and the exciting application this unlocked. So next, let's hear from Jake to talk about all these things behind the scene.
Thanks, Boyan. Hi, everyone. My name is Jake. I'm a tech lead for Stellar in the partner engineering team, and I live in San Diego, California, and I'm really good at being mediocre at chess. Next slide, thanks. So I'm going to talk about 3 things today. First, I'm going to give a high-level overview of how Stellar works, and then we're going to dive into how Circle issued USDC on Stellar. And then wrapping that up, we're going to go over how USDC is used today on Stellar, highlighting the MoneyGram Access product we recently launched. So Stellar has what we call operations. And as you guys are probably familiar, operations update a ledger or a blockchain state. But what makes Stellar different from a lot of other chains out there is that we actually don't have a generalized smart contract platform. The capability of sending ETH to an address is just about the only thing you can do on Ethereum without a smart contract. But on Stellar, the functionality that you can use, it's all baked into the protocol itself. So that functionality is baked into an operation. Things like payments, managing your buy and sell offers on Stellar's decentralized exchange, depositing and withdrawing from Stellar's AMMs, or defining account or asset-related configurations. Stellar assets, like a lot of assets out there, are identified using their asset code and the address from which that asset is issued, or the issuer account. Assets are issued or minted when an issuer makes a payment from that account or sells that asset from their account for another asset. So it's actually a little interesting that Stellar, you can't hold, Circle doesn't hold USDC in their issuer account. They actually don't have a balance of USDC. When they make a payment from their account, even though they don't have any balance there, that's when the USDC is actually minted. And in the same way, assets are burned in the reverse. So when you send a payment of USDC to Circle's issuer account, that will remove the USDC from supply. And if Circle were to buy USDC using another asset they had, that would also take out USDC from the supply. So Stellar gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to what kind of control you want to have over your asset if you're an issuer. Stellar provides configuration flags that you can set and change at any time, or if you want to use the auth immutable flag, then you can lock in your configuration. But the options are authorization required, authorization revocable, authorization immutable, and clawback enabled. By default, all assets on Stellar don't have these configuration options set, but Stellar does give you the capability to turn them on, and it gives you a lot of power for changing the way in which your users or your customers interact with your asset. So all this is just background information to kind of dig into what I kind of want to talk about, which is issuing USDC on Stellar. Circle had some pretty unique requirements for issuing USDC. Most issuers want to have sole control over the assets they issue and have total control over the supply, when assets are minted, when assets are burned. But Circle actually wanted to delegate issuance to multiple minters, multiple minting organizations. And this was kind of the core requirement that had downstream effects on the solution that we're going to go over. So because Circle wanted to be able to allow issuance to be delegated to multiple organizations, they had to be able to control a list of those organizations. So they had to be able to add organizations or Stellar accounts to this, this body of issuance and remove those organizations from the list if necessary. They obviously wanted to be able to limit the amount that these organizations could mint at any given time. And that limit had to be defined by the actual assets that were backing the USDC that would go on chain. So with these requirements, they started looking at Stellar and found a few challenges. So assets by default, and just every asset on Stellar, is issued from a single account. So if you're trying to delegate issuance to multiple minters, you obviously have a problem. The obvious approach is to give multiple organizations access to a single account through Stellar's multi-sig functionality. The problem there is that Stellar has a limit of 20 different unique signers on an account. So that list would be hard capped if they went with that direction. And signers can do a lot more than just issue the asset if they have a signer on the account, right? They could theoretically even collude to have more signing power than Circle itself and take over the account. So that's just simply not an option. So they had to get creative with the solution that they created. I'm going to go over that in the next slide. So Circle actually issues two assets on Stellar. They issue USDC, the one you all have probably used and are familiar with, but they also issue USDC Allow. And USDC Allow is a little different than USDC because it has some of the configuration options set. Circle can control who is allowed to hold USDC Allow, and they can also remove that authorization that they have provided previously. So this allows them to have kind of a predefined set of account owners that are allowed to hold this asset. And this asset plays a critical role in facilitating the issuance of USDC itself. So on the right-hand side is a diagram of kind of the flow of funds here between USDC and USDC Allow. But at a high level, there are 4 steps going on. Circle places USDC sell offers on Stellar's decentralized exchange. So when a taker were to buy USDC, they could not just buy it directly from Circle, but they're actually buying it from the decentralized exchange. The issuer of USDC Allow places, or USDC Allow is sent to minters. So all the organizations that Circle approves to be minters receive a certain amount of USDC Allow, and those minters can actually exchange their USDC Allow on the Stellar decentralized exchange. And as we went over previously, the USDC is minted when the Circle issuing account sells USDC for another asset. So when minters exchange their USDC Allow that they've been given for USDC, that is when USDC is minted and put into circulation on the Stellar network. Once minters have those USDCs, they can actually transfer them to their end users for whatever use case they're building. But this is the architecture of how Circle issued USDC on Stellar. It was very novel, never done before. And it's even a model that we have worked with a bunch of other partners on implementing. So kudos to you guys.
Kudos.
So before I end my piece here, I'm going to talk about a use case of USDC on Stellar. We're really proud and excited to talk about MoneyGram Access. This is a first of its kind global cash to USDC on and off ramp. So the idea is that you've gone to Kraken or Coinbase and you've linked your debit card or your bank account, but there really is not a lot of cash to crypto service, right, available, at least in the US. But there's a huge need in the world for cash economies to leverage the crypto ecosystem. And so this is what we're trying to do here with Stellar in this partnership with MoneyGram. And I got a quick video to show you guys before I'm finished.
Introducing MoneyGram Access, a global network of cash to crypto on and off ramps, activated by MoneyGram and built on Stellar. Introducing MoneyGram with one integration. Your wallet or fintech application can connect to MoneyGram Access, giving your users and the unbanked an entry point into new financial services with the power to deposit or withdraw cash from their digital wallets using USDC, a fully reserved dollar digital currency. Here's how it works. When you integrate with MoneyGram Access, your users can walk into one of hundreds of thousands of participating MoneyGram locations across the globe and turn their physical cash into crypto, or their crypto into cash in hand, all within your existing app, no bank account or credit card required. Users just enter the amount of crypto or cash they want to deposit or collect, fill in basic information, and then visit a participating MoneyGram location. From users without bank accounts aiming to safeguard their cash, to those looking for an entry point into crypto, your application can offer users a spectrum of financial services. Just integrate one API to access a network of new markets, new users, and the global cash economy. Visit stellar.org/MoneyGram to learn more.
If you're interested in building on Stellar or you have questions about MoneyGram Access, feel free to find me after the talk. Thanks.
And there's the booth there. Wow. So what a use case that we unlocked with the use of USDC. And frankly speaking, the video is so much better than all the slides we have. So it's very interesting to hear from Jake talk about the novel solutions that Circle and Stellar came up with. And frankly speaking, it was great collaboration back then with the two companies. As you can see, in order to issue USDC across chains, at times we have to build unique solutions to satisfy different requirements. At other times, we need to cater to the situation where there's already a bridged USDC available on that chain. But of course, users want native USDC instead. Now, before moving on to Avalanche, I'd like to explain a little bit about the differences between bridged USDC and native USDC. On your left side, the bridged USDC is not issued by Circle, as you can tell. In fact, it's like a synthetic version of USDC mirroring what's locked up on the source chain. Specifically, to generate bridged USDC, you will use your native USDC as collateral locked up in a source chain and in a bridge contract. Then, magically, you will get bridged USDC in your specified address on the destination chain. This is pretty cool, but please pay attention that what you are getting at the end is bridged USDC on the destination chain, not a real USDC. On the flip side, if Circle issues native USDC on both chains, it goes without relying on any bridges to do collateralization. It looks so much simpler on the right side of your screen because Circle did all the behind-the-scenes work to streamline mint and burn across chains, as what we heard from Oscar's presentation. What you get at the end on your destination or any chains is native USDC, aka real USDC, on both chains. Someone might ask, hey, they look different under the hood, but why bother using native USDC? This is a great million-dollar question. And well, there are at least 3 main reasons why you should consider using native USDC. Number 1 is security. There were so many hacks as we realized that hackers can steal locked up crypto assets on the source chain, which renders the breached assets on the destination chain worthless. This is pretty bad, and it happened a lot. But beyond people losing money, this also caused fatal damage to the trust of the crypto assets and blockchains themselves on the destination chain. Whereas natively issued USDC are in your address or your wallets or custodied by the trusted party like Circle, and that's eliminates such security risk. Number 2 is usability. As you know, people can bridge basically from anywhere to a chain, and this ends up causing varieties of versions of USDC fragmented on the destination chain. And what's worse, they are not even easily fungible with each other. These fragmented versions of USDC lead to poor UX as users get confused about what to use and which one they can trust. Number 3 is speed. Traditional bridges sometimes could take days to unbridge assets, and this leads to liquidity ties to liquidity of users. native USDC that Circle issues, though, it issues across blockchains, makes it the fastest to switch between chains. So with this background, with this difference in mind, let's take a look at Avalanche. Last year, there were high supply of bridged USDC on Avalanche called USDC.E. As you can see on the left side, it's mirroring from Ethereum through the Avalanche bridge to Avalanche. In order to better support consumers, we partnered with Avalanche team to launch USDC natively on Avalanche later in the year, last year. So with that, let's hear from Koyuki to talk about Avalanche ecosystem and the impacts of such launch.
Thank you so much, Florian. Yep, I'm Koyuki. Nice to meet you. How are you doing? How's energy level? Might be a bit tired. I'm all right. Well, I'm the director of market intelligence AI at Avalanche. So Avalanche is the company behind Avalanche, which is one of the most prominent L1s out there. I live in SF, not far away from here. I just walk over here, so good to be a local. Enjoy tennis, yoga, meditation, and of course, crypto and Web3 has been near and dear to my heart. A little bit about my background. I've been in the space of AI, machine learning, and also DS, data science, for over 10 years. I do believe that the combination of AI and Web3 is going to be the future, and it's already happening, and I'm super, super excited to be here at the intersection of the two fields. Yes, Avalanche. I think so far, you should have heard of Avalanche by now, but in case you haven't, it's one of the fastest and cheapest and most interoperable chains in a way that you can customize to your needs. So we call this subnets, is the concept where it allows you to vertically scale. And then the future is multi-chain is oftentimes quoted by our leaders. There will only be chains and bridges. And we've got a lot of dApps and projects thriving on Avalanche ecosystem. And we've got 3.3 million wallets and just broke daily and monthly transactions, all-time high this month. So we've got 65 million transactions, I think, in September, which is very close to Ethereum, if it's not more than what they have. So super proud of being part of the Avalanche ecosystem, and a lot of great things happening. Since its inception in September 2020, we just had 2-year anniversary, so happy birthday to everyone. I've been there from day one. Thank you and congrats. So we've got a thriving DeFi community and various incentive programs. You might have heard of Rush is one of the incentive programs that really push the DeFi ecosystem forward. Various, obviously, institution partnerships. So we believe in the institution adoption being the foray into mass adoptions. So we're talking about MasterCard, Lemonade, and Deloitte being our key partners. Having really successful partnership has given us the credibility that we need in the space. And also gaming, NFT, gaining momentum. So you might have played this before, but DeFi Kingdom, Chicken, and Castle Crash. And some of the AAA games are coming to Avalanche and joining forces. And some of the prominent artists joining Avalanche to really create NFT collections. You might have heard of Conscious Lines being one of the latest additions. So in case you haven't heard of them, please check them out after this. So far so good. A lot of growth, a lot of great stuff, right? So then the question is, what's next, right? What's needed to really help Avalanche to continue on its trajectory? So the answer is reserve-backed stable, such as USDC. Maintaining its peg at all costs, right? So we know that USDC is, one of the most trusted stable in the space, due to its transparency in terms of compliance and regulatory perspective. And we are super proud of being, one of the partners of Circle. And thank you for, your hard work, many years of your hard work in making this happen. So, we've actually seen, as William mentioned, that a strong demand for USDC, as shown in the supply of USDC.E, which is the bridge version of USDC. And as Avalanche ecosystem evolves, it's very, very clear, right, that we've got a strong appetite from the community as well as developers and artists to move away from Bridge USDC to native USDC. So especially due to what Jake and Oscar and Boyan alluded to previously, the importance around native USDC's increased security, usability, as well as faster transaction speeds. So those are the three things essentially are at the core of Avalanche, right? So it just made sense for us to partner with Circle. As a result, we have decided to really partner with Circle to launch native USDC on Avalanche in December 2021. Awesome. So you can see this chart. So Avalanche stablecoin supply over time, that's prior to native USDC integration. So the bridge USDC, USDC.E was already the dominating stable, right? So really kind of like being the number one. And that's when we actually heard a lot of feedback from the community be like, hey, when do we get the native ones, right? Like, when is that? So then fast forward to the post-native USDC era. So you can see that native USDC really taking off, right? And then since its integration in December 2021, on Avalanche, the ecosystem has really picked us up fantastically, right? So it's really exciting to see that, the native USDC becoming the number one stable in April 2022. And then, essentially it's a win-win situation for us as well, right? So we're, providing something that's more secure, right? Obviously, native assets are always more secure than bridge assets. Doesn't matter how good the bridge is, right? So, and then also by listening to our community, we're able to grow the Avalanche ecosystem. So next slide, please. And then in this pie chart, again, native USDC being the number one stable on Avalanche. So 2x of the USDC.E, right? So not only do we see, right, the total supply of USDC going up on Avalanche, but we actually seen very rapid adoption of the native USDC across our ecosystem. So that means number of dApps using native USDC, right, compared to Bridge USDC really skyrocketed since then. Again, it's amazing to see this, and then we're super proud of the growth with the help of Circle and native USDC integration. To really drive home my message, shipping USDC helped Avalanche make progress in its mission of hyper-tokenizing all world's assets. So we're talking about 700 trillion of those. It's a lot of money, big number, audacious mission, right? But I know we're gonna get there with the help of Circle, with the help of native USDC, and your passion, my passion, and lots of sleepless nights. So yeah, super excited to be in this space. And yeah, reach out if you have any questions, you want to learn more about Avalanche, myself or AI, and also we're hiring. So please check out the website. Yeah, thank you. Back to you, Boyan.
Awesome. They also have a booth, and yes, everybody's hiring. Wow, I'm trying to get my head around all these numbers. How many zeros was the $700 trillion? But what's a thriving ecosystem of Avalanche? And thanks, Koyoki. I'm especially excited to see how quickly that users naturally adopted native USDC over the bridge USDC. This made me feel more hopeful about more people adopting native USDC in future as well. All right, let's do a recap. We talked about USDC architecture, USDC on Stellar, and USDC on Avalanche. We hope you enjoyed the talk and learned something. If there's one thing we want you to take away today, multi-chain USDC is the future. The future isn't just one chain for all. The future is multi-chain. And USDC can empower each chain to shine in their own way. And that concludes our presentation, which I will show the slides you will see many times. So we hope you can build with us. We hope you can build on Circle. You can join us on Discord. You can get started with our API on Sandbox. And we are hiring as well. If you are a builder at heart, like me, or like the people on the stage, who wants to get hands dirty by building 0 to 1 platform on blockchain, you should talk to me. And you can find me on Telegram, which is my address on Telegram. And we appreciate your attention. We hope you can enjoy Converge. Thank you very much.